Hello, 'tis I, Fat Cow. Now, I've been on the internet for almost exactly 1 year, and in the last year I have been circling the drain that is Girl World. Girl World isn't exactly what one would call an intellectual pursuit. I started out covering Girl World because I wanted to point out the psychology of the individuals involved. That, however, I have done to death. As I said when I announced my departure from Girl World, there is only so many times one can shout at the abyss, these people are narcissists, before the abyss shouts back at you and says, yeah, we know. And so, without further ado, allow me to present to you the Fat Cow Chronicles 2.0. So what is trolling? We've all heard of it. We all think, by definition of being online, that we've probably experienced it. But are we defining trolling correctly? Is somebody basically making a comment or a criticism that you yourself personally find hurtful or distasteful actually a troll? Or is it just somebody expressing an opinion? The dictionary definition of trolling is to make a deliberately offensive or provocative online post with the aim of upsetting someone or eliciting an angry response from them. So from that, we can ascertain it's not necessarily the comment itself that makes it a troll, but the intention behind it. The intention is to elicit a negative response from the person or persons the comment is aimed at. It's not just presenting an observation that may be interpreted as being negative. It's the intention behind the comment that makes it a troll. But here's the issue. If somebody says or writes something online that causes you offence, does that make it a troll? We've already know the definition is basically the intention behind what was said that makes it a troll, not the reaction it gets. For example, let's just say, off the top of my head, somebody says in a video, oh, that fat cow, she's so weird. She can talk. She's a circus freak. For example, just for argument's sake, let's say somebody said that. And I have no negative response to it whatsoever because I don't consider it an insult. Does that mean it wasn't a troll? Because the intended result of saying these things didn't happen? Or is it a troll because, although it didn't get a reaction, it was sent with the intention of getting a reaction? And what if somebody said something off cuff that wasn't meant to make somebody angry, but the recipient is maybe particularly sensitive about something or other and was angry? Does that make the comment a troll? Well, no, because it wasn't sent with the intention of getting a negative reaction or to provoke somebody. So let's get a bit deeper into this whole trolling business, shall we? And kind of dissect what it is exactly. Trolling or similar activities have gone by many names. Obviously, trolling, cyberbullying, harassment, flaming, shitposting. And while all of these things are not exactly the same, they do have one thing in common, and that is they describe an activity that is deliberately designed to interrupt discussions, interrupt the flow of the media that has been discussed upon, and to elicit a negative response, not just anger, but also fear or sadness. Basically, it is a deliberate, targeted attempt to ruin somebody's day, life, whatever. And it's helpful if you think about trolling on a spectrum of intensity and the threat level. For example, on the lower end of the spectrum of trolling, there can be mildly annoying and ultimately harmless attempts to provoke a reaction. On the other end of the trolling spectrum, it can be relentless and dangerous. The boundary between trolling and becoming actual harassment is a very fine line. And if the trolling becomes persistent enough and is targeted enough, it could actually be considered legally as harassment, and therefore legal action can be taken. Now I'm going to read this from an article written by Psychology Today called Why Do People Troll Online? And the reason I'm reading this directly is because it describes it in the most cohesive and understandable way possible. And if I tried to explain it, I would absolutely fuck it up. Trolling has different styles. Some trolling is overt and obvious, name-calling, personal attacks, character assassination, spreading lies, releasing private information, for example doxing, complaining to employers, threats, etc. And sometimes it can be covert and sneaky. Social media stalking behind a block, which is called sea lioning, talking about someone without tagging or naming them, subtweeting, etc. I mean, there's no honour in trolling people. But the level and the depths that some people will go to troll somebody while remaining anonymous makes the trolling more sinister. To poke the bear to get a reaction is all well and good if you are prepared for the reaction of the bear. But if you poke the bear behind a wall while in camouflage, masking your scent, with another person acting as a decoy, there is no consequence to your action, and therefore the trolling takes on a more sinister quality to it, because you're not accepting the responsibilities of your actions. You are, by definition, literally being a fucking coward. So barely subscribes to being adult behaviour. You're being a child. You are pretending to be ballsy when in reality you're a eunuch. Again, I'm going to read from this Psychology Today article because, quite frankly, it does a much better job at talking about this subject than I am. And this is what causes trolling. I mean, you would argue trolling is caused by unpleasant individuals that have more time on their hands than sense, have nothing better to do, and are inherently quite spiteful and unpleasant people. But that just might be my opinion. According to Psychology Today, which obviously has a better opinion than I do, trolling is multi-causal. Isn't caused by any one thing, but many reasons that can add up. It's basically there is a perfect storm that has to be created in order to cause trolling, and not just an individual being an arsehole. The most helpful way to think about these causes is to divide them into two categories. Reasons outside of the person, such as environmental factors, and the reason inside the person, such as their experiences in life, their already opinions of certain subjects, their ideas, their stereotypes that they subscribe to, things of that nature. So environmental factors that can cause trolling are the online disinhibition effect. Now, isn't that a mouthful? This phenomenon describes an illusion of invincibility and invisibility. A person is more likely to troll from behind a screen than face to face due to the false sense of security. Now, I am somebody who has always subscribed to the notion that if you cannot say something to someone's face, you shouldn't say it behind. Somebody's having a worse day than I am, and I hope they're okay. If you can't say it to somebody's face, you shouldn't say it behind their back. And behind their back also includes from the other side of the screen. An even better way of thinking, should I say this thing, is would you want it whispered in your ear by your cellmate in prison? If you wouldn't want to hear it whispered by the particularly large, burly roommate of yours in prison, should you say it out loud from behind your screen? That also goes for messaging people who are interested in on dating sites. If you wouldn't want to hear it from the very large and threatening man in your prison cell, you shouldn't really be saying it to the person you're interested in. Anyway, metaphorically, the online environment can produce a sort of mental veil that seems to open a release valve into some of the darker corners of human nature, not unlike the liquid courage and disinhibition of alcohol can provide. Unsurprisingly, combining the online disinhibition effect with alcohol use can be a recipe for disaster. Now, I know I said I wouldn't talk about Girl World, or would only talk about Girl World if something particularly remarkable happens. But if one wants to see an example of the online disinhibition effect combined with alcohol, there is a little video, or there's a couple of videos, let's say. One is a Cuba Rage, and the other is the High Kicks something or other video. My brain has deserted me. By a certain individual who goes by Foodie the Beauty on YouTube. Perfect example of this phenomena. Right, anonymity. If a person engages anonymously online, then it's like the online disinhibition effect on steroids. It is easier to troll with the illusion of no accountability and no connection to one's offline life. Obviously, the illusion, the belief that you will get away with it because nobody knows who you are, gives you a certain level of courage that you wouldn't normally have if the comment was directly associated with yourself. However, finding out information about people online is scarily easy, and a sense of anonymity online is a very false sense of security indeed. Another phenomenon towards the cause of trolling is tribalism, the power of the group. Like a pack of wolves, humans are social creatures and have an innate desire to be part of a group. When many members of a group are trolling a target, a sense of belonging can be achieved by conforming to the group's behaviour. Right, individual factors that can contribute towards trolling. Personality. There are many ways of understanding personality. In essence, personality traits are deeply ingrained patterns of thinking and behaving. One way to understand one particular aspect of personality is to focus on some of the darker sides of human nature, which researchers have called the dark triad. T-triad, the dark triad. Sadism, psychopathy, narcissism and Machiavellianism. That's 4 things. Okay. Oh, it's a tetrad. Oh, so now it's 4 things, not 3. Oh, wow, you learn something new every day. Okay, the dark tetrad. Sadism, psychopathy, narcissism and Machiavellianism. It's had an upgrade. Cool. The dark tetrad has been found to be associated with trolling. When the dark tetrad, sadism, has been found to be the strongest predictor of trolling. Wow. Sorry. I'm having a revelation. Okay. Which is basically, this is sadism, the tendency to derive pleasure or enjoyment from being cruel and demeaning to others. It is important to recognise that sadism in this sense can occur on a spectrum. People can have more or less sadistic tendencies. Ideology possessed beliefs. Some people are married to their beliefs and don't believe in divorce. Interesting way of putting it. In other words, some people can rigidly over-identify with particular beliefs such as health, gender, racism, politics, etc., to the extent they might engage in trolling behaviour when those beliefs are threatened. Personal experience has taught me, if you want a quieter life on the internet, avoid politics at all costs. People do not like it when their worldwide views are poked and prodded, because it can be very upsetting when someone is told that the way in which they understand the world is wrong. It can also feel personal and result in a lashing out for protection. Research has shown that people perceive trolling as more deserved and justified when they perceive that the target has committed an offence. Conditioning. Not everyone finds demeaning people to be rewarding and reinforcing, but this is the experience of people with stronger sadistic tendencies. One framework to help understand trolling is what psychologists called operant and classical conditioning. Operant conditioning is the study of reward and punishment to influence behaviour. For some, this might dredge up images of rats or pigeons dancing for food pebbles. No, it does not. Not for me anyway. Anyway, basically, trolling behaviour can be rewarded in two ways. The pleasure experienced from getting a rise out of a target, what we would call positive reinforcement, and in some cases, the pleasure experienced by avoiding or distracting themselves from aspects in life that they are uncomfortable with, which is the negative reinforcement. Like a slot machine, randomly responding to trolling just strengthens the motivation for it to continue. I don't know where the slot machine reference comes from, but I'm just reading this. Simultaneously, there are classical conditioning processes going on, reminiscent of a dog that salivates when you open the cupboard because they know they're about to eat, which is a very, very, very downplayed and simplified version of the Pavlovian effect, basically. A dog will salivate because they've learnt that the cupboard represents food. That cow will become drowsy the minute she realises it's 6 p.m. Sorry. In the same way, people with sadistic tendencies that engage in trolling may salivate, so to speak, when they learn that their target represents the pleasure they will experience when they're trolled. So let's get back to the dark tetrad. Basically the personality cocktail that can result in a person that is, let's just say, more inclined to troll than somebody who does not possess these particular smorgasbord of personality traits. The dark tetrad, as we said, sadism, narcissism, Machiavellism, and the other thing, psychopathy. My memory's not good. I'm so sorry. The dark tetrad is like a supervillain squad of personality traits, which brings its own particular superpower into the mix of crap that it creates on the internet, let's say. Narcissism. the trait that makes the troll believe that they are the centre of the universe, the most important person on the internet, the loudest voice in the crowd. These people have an inflated sense of self-importance and crave attention. Machiavellianism is the tendency to be manipulative, cunning, to be of a slightly more sneaky variety of individual. Trolls with Machiavellianism are masters of deception and strategic thinking. Psychopathy, which is characterised by a lack of empathy or remorse. This is the personality trait that will allow a troll to hurt other people and not lose any sleep over it whatsoever. And then, as discussed previously, we have sadism, the proverbial cherry on top of what is a very, very unappetizing Bakewell tart. Sadists derive pleasure from causing pain, discomfort, emotional distress to other people. And I have changed my seating position because my hip hurts, because I am both elderly and chronically ill, and my hips are not particularly friendly towards the rest of me. Now, not all people with these traits become trolls, and not all trolls will have these traits. It's just that research has shown that the likelihood of a troll having some or all of these traits seems to be statistically higher, and therefore can be considered a quantifiable phenomenon, basically. It's me trying to sound intelligent. I think I fooled everybody, obviously. Does being a troll require a certain level of intelligence? Well, I'd argue no. It doesn't require intelligence to be a troll. It does require a certain level of possibly deviousness, a certain sneakiness, let's say, that being the Machiavellian part of the Dark Tetrad. But intelligence? No. So don't all you little under the bridge dwelling individuals go around with your narcissistic inflated sense of self, thinking that you're so smart because you have been trolling somebody on the internet. It is not a reflection of intelligence at all. And I would argue that, conversely, participating actively in the activity, if you want to call it, of trolling would surely be a very good indication of a severe lack of emotional intelligence. But that's just me. So, as a result of the hours and hours and hours of research I've put into this subject, which is so obvious in this video, given that I only just discovered that the dark triad is now a tetrad, at the same time as you have just discovered this, I have come to this conclusion. People who participate in trolling can be summed up as a particular type of individual. That is, 1, a coward. 2, has a very sadistic desire to belittle others and therefore is a bully. And 3, likes to follow the crowd. So if you are someone who participates in the act of trolling, you are a cowardly follower of bullies who is themselves a bully. You are mindless, weak, and unpleasant. And to end this quite frankly triumphant first attempt at a video that is not Girl World related and yet seems very Girl World related in its subtext, I would like to put forth my advice to those who are trolled and to tell you that the absolutely best response that you can give to a troll is no response at all. In fact, it's like covert trolling back, because by not reacting, you will be eliciting a negative reaction from them. They will be pissed off. So it's a weird kind of symbiotic thingy to not react to a troll, because you will be like throwing back the negativity they want for you back at them, which makes you... No, it doesn't make you a troll. Cannot reacting be a troll? Oh wow, that's a whole completely different video. Oh well. Questions, 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 and very few answers. Well, from me anyway. I mean, I have never claimed to know it all. Anyway, I sincerely thank all of you for your patience if you have made it this far. When I first started making videos, I was quite serious about how I presented the information. Bless you. And I just wanted to give the facts and maybe some commentary. And now I'm just chatting away like an old lady at a crochet party. I hope it is a style that you can support. I wish you all a bloody marvellous day, and I hope to see many of you, metaphorically, because obviously I can't see any of you, on the 3rd of May, where I will be celebrating exactly 1 year of the existence of this channel, of which I currently have 8 Squishmallows to give away to some incredibly lucky and fortunate individuals. If your life can be improved by owning something squishy, that is. Obviously some people's lives might require a bit more than something to hug. But I can only do so much. I'm going to go now before I say something even more ridiculous and stupid than I already have. Thank you. Every single one of you marvellous, marvellous individuals.